Welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Streakers Island Podcast. And it is I, Jacob Moore, the sports analyst. We were worried that Chazzy, the CEO, was not going to make it this week with all the power outages, that he got on the CEO phone. He called up Hydro One and said, you listen here. I have the Streakers Island Podcast to do. Get me my electricity.
Yeah.
Stop that ice off that generator.
Lightning!
And of course, we have Dan Moore, who has finally got into some sun more for your money.
Woo!
Who's wearing the fedora, which I gotta say, pretty fly for a white guy. But we have an action-packed show for everyone. We're going to talk about Sidney Crosby breaking another record.
Another one.
4 in a row. What does that mean for this team? Meh. The CFL way too early power rankings brought to you by a Stampeder, who I think Chazzy is going to call him up on his CEO phone. Blue Jays injury, NHL wildcard race, and so much more.
Did you say Blue Jays injuries already?
Yes, Blue Jays injuries are. However, they had a nice one on Monday. But what I want to talk about to start off is Chazzy must have been screaming if he had cable and electricity at this point. I'm not sure if he did or not. But towards the end of the Montreal Canadiens versus Florida Panthers game, Mikola, who's a very good defenseman from the Panthers, decided to take a nice clapper from the opposite side of the ring with 1 second left and almost knock Savard out. Now, this caused mayhem on the ice. Of course, first play to jump in there is Brandon Gallagher, which is why I love Brandon Gallagher. I get he doesn't score the way he used to, but at the same time, he is a guy that you want on your team.
Is he worth $7 million cap hit, though? I don't think so.
For Montreal, without the leadership, I don't think they were expected to be a playoff team this year, so I think that's why they thought he would be.
That's probably the most expensive 19 goals in the league.
Well, that's not what we're here to talk about at the moment. We're here to talk about that suspension. I mean, the non-suspension, I should say, because I thought it should have been a suspension. I'm just going to say that right off the bat here. And the reason why I'm saying that's just not a hockey play. That's a very dangerous play. Let's say you clock Savard in the head, you knock him out with a concussion. We all know with concussions, only God knows when you're coming back. I cannot stand reckless, dangerous plays that just aren't necessary. Dan, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think the fine was justified, or would you have liked to have seen the suspension?
I don't think the fine's enough. I think if it actually hit Savard in the head, I think it would have been a bigger penalty. But regardless, it was a fact of inches. And I think it should have been a 2-game suspension. I think it was a very classless act.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It will never be a suspension until someone gets seriously hurt from it, which is unfortunate. But it's going to happen on one of these days. It's something like that's going to hit the player in the wrong spot on their body, and it's going to cause a lot of danger because he wasn't braced for it, right?
No,
we showed Chazzy the clip just before he came on the air here, and Savard literally had to jump out of the way last second to not get hit. So what happens there too? He jumps out of the way and pulls a muscle, and he's out for the rest of the season. Now what? No, in all seriousness, you get injured the most when your body is not prepared. So, Chazzy, you've seen it now. It's fresh in your brain. You're like, boom. Was a $5,000 fine justified, or would you like to see a suspension?
No, I think a fine. Well, he did shoot it before the end of the game. It's a dangerous play. You do see it. Usually when you're only down a goal or whatever, you just try to shoot it down there. They're down 2 goals at that point. So it was a meaningless shot. I guess there's just more of frustration that you just lost to our Habs. And all I know is Montreal will be rocking for this game tonight. So,
I can't wait.
There will be some fireworks tonight.
If I'm Montreal, and we'll get into that game a bit later in the show, but if I'm Montreal, I am setting the tone, opening face-off and having a fight. And you know what it is too? I don't care if the guy wants to fight or not. I'm dropping the gloves and I'm clobbering them. Montreal, it doesn't matter. You're going to say they don't have any enforcers. Yes, they do. They have Robert Jacki. Robert Jacki is going to go out there and practically murder somebody. And that's what Montreal has to do. Set the tone and say, look, you're not pushing us around. So I am giving it the Jacob Moore, self-proclaimed sports analyst stamp of approval. Within the first minute, we're going to see a fight in that game. At that spot, Chazzy, bam!
Ooh.
First minute, boom! There's going to be a
fight. Here comes the boom!
Montreal cannot show weakness.
No.
If they don't fight there, they're showing weakness. They're showing they can be pushed around. I love that they went and tried to fight the guy right away. But this anger needs to be put to bed right at the start of the period. You two.
I think the referee got more shots in than any of the players.
Yeah.
But do you guys agree with me or no? Would you like to see Montreal take charge here and grab it by the balls, or do you want to see them play hockey? Because it's also the 2 points that they need.
Oh no, they'll be up for this game. They'll definitely be up for this game.
But do you want to see a fight? Like, do you want like a Four Nations, Canada versus US, just drop them, let's go right at the opening face-off?
I wouldn't be surprised if they went within the first minute. I agree with you. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Dan, what are you thinking, Mr. Fedora?
100 percentile. Now, if I was Montreal, I'm starting Jack High for the opening face-off. If I'm Florida, I'm not putting Nikolai, whatever his name is, in the opening face-off because I'm trying to protect his soy little butt. But I'm definitely putting Brad Marchand and Kachuk's injured, but I'm definitely putting Brad Marchand on that opening face-off if I'm Florida.
Okay, number one, Brad Marchand will not fight Jack. It'll end up being a guy like
Steve Bennett will. Sam Bennett, I should say.
Steve.
I don't know Steve is.
Bennett.
Who's Steve?
Cousin.
Who's Steve?
But
Steve the Egg. I wake up with no legs. Steve the Egg. Wake up with 2 sausages.
Okay, for any younger viewers who have no idea, or Chazzy, I guess, is an older viewer, that was from Dave the Barbarian, a Family Channel show from my childhood. And if it's in my childhood, Dan had to sit through it. So
sucks of a younger brother.
So, but yeah, if you're Montreal, I get you need the 2 points, but I think you just want to get this out of the way, drop the gloves, and then move on and play the game. Because when we take a look at the NHL standings here, and let's start with the East before we get into the West. So I'm really excited to talk about the West. But the East is a very tight race right now between Montreal, Rangers, and Columbus.
Yeah.
Detroit and the Islanders, I'm kind of on right now. Just because I don't feel they're playing well enough.
Did you just say your Islanders?
I did.
Oh.
The Islanders over the weekend, they're on a 3-game losing streak. They lost 2 games that they came close in the third, but they just weren't ready to play. And that is not the Islanders that I'm used to cheering for. They're usually a team that digs deep and finds ways. Right now, they're finding ways to not stay in this wild card race. Now, mind you, Montreal, the Rangers, and Columbus are also finding ways to try to not be in this wild card race. So they're keeping it open.
No one wants it.
As no one has been over 500 in their last 10. The only thing I will give the Canadiens credit for is that they've managed to get points in 7 games out of their last 10, which in a system where some games are worth 3 points and some games are worth 2, that's critical. But when I look at the East, I really feel this is becoming a 2 to 3 team race for the 1 spot. Ottawa, I still feel Ottawa's really pulling away. And I look at Montreal.
They got a big week ahead of them. Look, what do they got? Lightning, Panthers, and back-to-back Blue Jackets. Wow. And then you got the Canadiens.
Wow.
That's very true, actually. Looking ahead at Ottawa, they got Buffalo coming up, which that should be an easy win. But then you have Tampa, Florida, Columbus, Montreal.
Yeah.
So I will say
That's tough.
If Columbus wants to gain any ground against Ottawa, you win those 2 games on the 6th and the 8th. This is a brand new ball game for Ottawa, right? And for Columbus.
It's April 1st. April Fools.
The same thing I'll say for Montreal on the 11th. If you play Ottawa on the 8th and you play Montreal, on the 11th. If let's say Ottawa goes on a bit of a slump, Montreal goes on a bit of a tear.
Well, we got Bruins, Flyers, Predators, Red Wings.
Yeah, I was gonna say Montreal does not have an easy schedule either. Like,
they got an easier schedule.
They have an easier, but the Panthers is going to be a tough game on Tuesday.
Well, outside of the Panthers, yeah.
The thing is, the Bruins will get amped up to play Montreal.
Anytime.
You should beat the Bruins. You should beat the Flyers. You should beat the Preds. and you should beat the Red Wings. So in theory, let's say the Canadiens can win 3 out of their next 4. Then they play Ottawa and Toronto in a back-to-back situation. You find a way to beat Ottawa. Ottawa doesn't go on as much of a tear because they have a harder schedule playing against teams that are really still fighting to stay in the dance. This could become interesting for Ottawa. It seemed like they were pulling away, but Chazzy, I got to agree with you. This next week and a half for Ottawa and Montreal and Columbus respectively, and the Rangers are huge.
Yeah.
The Rangers, they have a bit of an easier schedule coming up. They got the Wild, who've been really struggling, the Devils, who are inconsistent. Lightning are a good team, but then the Flyers and Islanders, and then the Hurricanes. But, I mean, you look at the Rangers, if you can win 4 of the next 5, which that's doable, Montreal and Ottawa better make sure they don't slip up too much.
I got to say something to help your case, Jacob. I got to give the Islanders a lot of credit because, let's face it, they're basically doing all this close without the top 2 centermen. Because Brassard's out, injured, and they traded Nelson. So the fact that they made it this close, you got to give those guys a lot of respect.
And the Islanders are a team, as much as I don't feel they're going to do it this year, if any team is going to pull out of the depths of hell, it is the New York Islanders out of the East. But they have a bit of a tougher schedule. They got Tampa coming up on April Fool's Day tonight. Then you play the Wild. Okay, that's a doable game. But then you got the Washington Capitals with Ovechkin trying to break the record. Then the Preds, that's doable. But then you got the Rangers. That's a tough one. Then you got the Flyers. That's doable. But, like, you looking at their Islanders schedule, it's like tough game, easier game, tough game, easier game kind of thing. Like, the Islanders almost have to win. They almost got to go on a 5-6 game winning streak here to really have a chance.
Yeah, perfect.
And that's going to be tough for a team that's lost 3 straight. They only have 9 games left. I'd say out of the last 9, they got to win 8.
So right now, Leafs are playing Senators first round.
If the playoffs started today, yes, Leafs versus Senators, which, funny enough, I was watching Sportsnet the other night. And, of course, I asked the question, who would the Leafs rather face? I hate that question. I hate that question. I'll tell you why. You never ask to face another team.
No.
Any team can beat any team in any series. We look at the OHL playoffs. The Sioux Greyhounds just beat the Windsor Spitfires in overtime on Monday night.
Yeah.
Going back into that series. The Niagara Ice Dogs almost took down the Barrie Colts in a thriller of a game.
Yeah, they're up 5-1 in the third and almost lost it.
You never know what's going to happen. And the Leafs have not beat the Senators yet this season.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously Toronto wants to win the division to avoid playing the Lightning and the Panthers, but I don't think Leaf fans should be jumping for joy getting the Senators. Senators are a good team.
If we get the Senators, well, are you going to Battle Ontario recent years, or are you going back to the early 2000s of Battle Ontario?
I think going back to early 2000s.
Yeah. You're going to have Lionel Reeves. You're going to have Quig being goofy out there. I think it could be a very interesting series.
But yeah, as of right now, we would have Leafs Senators. The only thing is, as Chazzy pointed out, I don't think it's impossible for Montreal to catch Ottawa.
Yeah.
We're looking at the schedules coming up. If Montreal can get some big wins, Ottawa has been kind of a win-one, lose-one team lately. And a big difference for Ottawa is they're not getting as many games to overtime as Montreal. So Ottawa loses some games of regulation. Montreal continues to find ways to get points. Do I think Montreal's going to catch Ottawa? Personally, no. Do I think it's possible? Absolutely.
I was going to say, too, about last game, you mentioned the Montreal schedule when they face Toronto. At that point, Toronto might have the division locked up, and they might start. You don't think so?
No.
It's 5 games now, Blow.
There's a 3-point spread right now.
Yeah.
No. And you look at...
you guys got Florida on the back-to-back. Florida's got they got Montreal and then Toronto.
The only thing, Dan, that maybe could save your butt from your almost clown book comment, Toronto's got Florida, Columbus, Florida, Tampa. Let's say you beat Florida twice and you beat the Lightning, then it's possible you've locked up the division by the Montreal game.
Do I
think they're going to beat Florida twice and the Lightning once down this stretch?
All I'm asking is, hypothetically speaking, if they do that, okay, and you're facing Montreal, do you bench some of your star players and bring up some of your players from the Maoris to get some playing experience before playoffs in case of injuries? And if that's the case, that might be an easy win for Montreal.
No such thing as an easy win this time.
But you know what I mean, though, right? Toronto might sit here and look at this. Okay, we haven't beat Ottawa all year yet. We got a chance of playing Montreal if we give them 2 points.
They're not going to look at it that way. No way on HE double hockey sticks, because you haven't done that well against Montreal either.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't think Toronto at this point, and I think Leaf Nation would agree with me, and maybe not, I don't really care. But the Leafs have sucked in the playoffs for a very long time. In this era in general, under the Tavares, Marner, Matthews, Nylander era, they've won 1 round.
First one key
lost to Washington, Boston, Montreal, Florida. Okay, you made it to the second round. Good job.
And Columbus.
You lost to Tampa. Oh my gosh, I forgot about the Columbus one. I like to pretend that one didn't exist. And Columbus. So I don't think Toronto looks at any route as, oh, this is an easier route. They have not been able to get the job done. So if you're Toronto, you can't look at this as, oh, we want to face so-and-so. Any battle, you have to be prepared to play the best team you've ever played against for 7 games of hell. Or else the Leafs will not make it out of the first round.
There's one key thing you forgot about that statement. Yes, it's the Cold War era. However, the one thing that's different now is it's not the Sheldon Keefe era. We just saw the controversy in New Jersey between Sheldon Keefe and some player, I don't know who it was, talking about playoffs. Okay, Sheldon Keefe is not a playoff close versus Craig Berube is. That's the difference. That's why we're different this year. Let's go.
I don't care. Until they make it to the third round, I don't care. The Leafs have to treat every round like it's the Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah.
Conference finals are bust.
Yep.
Yes, 100%. But I want to move on to the Western Conference before I go upstairs and throw a clown book at Dan. And I feel Dan thought I was crazy when I said the Calgary Flames were not out of this just yet. And then when they were down 2-0 going into the third period against the Avalanche, Dan's like, that's their season. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, they're going to come back. They're going to come back and win this one. Well, sure enough, Calgary with the 4th line came back and won, and came back in the third period and won the game in a shootout. So
I called that. I said,
this is just getting insane. I used to play badminton in high school. But I look at this Flames team right now. You have 2 games in hand over the Blues and the Wild, and you're 5 points behind the Blues, 6 points behind the Wild. The Wild are 4-4-2 in their last 10. Okay, the Blues are 9-1. But they might have to fall asleep at some point behind the wheel. And if you're Calgary right now, you feel you have a legitimate chance still of catching them because your schedule coming up benefits you. You got Utah on the 1st, which is tonight. Then you got the Ducks. So you should win those 2 games. Golden Knights would be a tough one. So let's say you lose against the Golden Knights. Then you got the Sharks again. Then you got the Ducks again. Then you have the Minnesota Wild. If you can get into the Wild winning 4 of those 5, you have a legitimate chance because the Wild have been terrible of late. Then after the Wild, you close against the Sharks, Golden Knights, and Kings, which by then the Kings probably might not even have their full roster out, as Dan said. And neither will the Golden Knights. You know that meme, so you're saying there's a chance. It's like the goofy smile. That's how I feel about the Calgary Flames right now. I'm not saying they got it locked in, but I'm not saying they're locked out because the Wild have a much harder schedule. They got the Rangers and the Islanders coming up, which are 2 desperate teams. Then you got the Stars. You'll probably lose to they'll probably lose to the Stars. Then you got they'll probably beat the Sharks. But then you got the Flames and Canucks
back to back,
and then the Ducks again one more time. And the Ducks have been playing spoilers lately.
They love playing the spoiler role.
And I know I just said Calgary should beat the Ducks, but they should. And Minnesota should beat the Ducks. But I feel the Wild are a team that could spoil.
Wow.
I legitimately see a picture where Calgary jumps the Wild, and the Wild has one of the biggest collapses we've seen in the recent years.
No, not Marc-Andre Fleury's last
yes.
season.
No way.
I hate saying
no.
it. I hope not for Marc-Andre Fleury, but I think the Wild are going to miss the playoffs.
What?
No, they'll get it. That wow.
Boo!
Where's your book?
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to say this
100%.
clip. I'm stamping at 20 minutes and 30 seconds, segment 1 of the Streakers Island podcast on April Fool's Day.
There's the April Fool's joke, everyone.
We'll come back to this video footage.
We will. Going into the playoff in our playoff preview, and I'm going to be like, what I tell you, boys? Who's got the best winning percentage on the Streakers app?
Your boy here. Can't argue that.
Now, if that's the case,
I don't care about your feelings.
If Minnesota does miss the playoffs, does Marc-Andre Fleury come back for one more year?
No.
He's done. He's done.
I think he's good.
If he catches fire here and he takes them second, third round.
Oh, yeah.
The Wild are going to miss the
Who do they got first round? Minnesota. Who would they play? They'd have that 7. Is that Dallas?
Would play.
Winnipeg? No, not Winnipeg.
Winnipeg would have won.
The Vegas.
Vegas.
Oh, Fleury in Vegas.
Spanked.
Got it. Yes.
I honestly feel when I look at because I actually think the Blues, even though the Blues at one point on the Wild, I am much more confident that the Blues will make the playoffs.
I called that one.
I look at the Wild, the Flames, and the Canucks, because I think that's kind of what's left in this race here. And I get by the points perspective, Mr. Calculator Dan, like, I don't care. I'm not the type that looks at numbers. I look at the schedule and I go by my gut.
So you're more confident in St. Louis making the playoffs than the 7?
The Wild, absolutely. Wow. The Blues have won 9 straight, 9 of their last 10. They have just been absolutely dominating, and their schedule's easier.
Yeah, they got
the Red Wings and the Pens as your next 2. Okay, then the Avs and the Jets. Those are tough games. Then the Oilers, Kraken, and Utah. The Oilers have looked pretty bad of late. I get they beat Calgary off Leon Draisaitl's back.
Big momentum swing for that club.
Yeah.
You can't get goaltending. Winnipeg has absolutely nothing to play for. The Kraken left the spoil, and Utah, they'll probably beat Utah. So I think the Blues have a much easier schedule going down. I think the Blues will easily win 5 of the last 7.
Speaking of the Blues,
we lose to the Avs and the Jets. So I think the Blues will get in. I really think, and I don't have that much confidence in the Canucks either. I just don't feel it with that team this year. The Flames showed some heart, and I think
did. That Papa is amazing. I called it. I said he was going to have a big game. 6'8" of him, and he hasn't had an assist all year. He probably assisted the most important goal in Calgary this season so far. In that first goal in Colorado, he skates down the wing, and 30 seconds later gets the second goal. I give him a lot of credit for a star. But speaking of the Blues, Jake, I'm going to put you on the spotlight here. We were talking off camera here at JMO, and you were saying if St. Louis faces Winnipeg in the first round right now, you think the Blues have a chance taking out Winnipeg?
Yes.
Yeah.
Blues are the hottest team in the NHL. Winnipeg hasn't had a meaningful game in months.
Yeah. Wow.
The only saving grace could be as if Connor Hellebuyck can do Connor Hellebuyck things.
But in 4 nations, Binnington got it done versus Hellebuyck didn't.
It's really a toss-up, but I think that's a series. I could see the Blues at least giving the Jets a run for their money.
Yeah, like a 7-game. That could go.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the Blues are going to jump up to that second wild card and take on Vegas.
Oh.
And then you're going to see either Calgary or the Wild. And as much as I said no to Vancouver, looking at Vancouver's schedule, it's not too bad. You got the Kraken, Ducks, then you got the Golden Knights, Stars, and the Avs. The second week of April is your do or die week for the Canucks. You got the Golden Knights, Stars, Avs, Wild. You have to win.
You almost got to win right out. You almost maybe a game or 2.
Or at least the game you lose, you got to get it to overtime, and it can't be against the Wild. You got to beat the Wild, and you got to beat the Stars, Avs, and Knights. Or if you lose one of those games, you got to lose an OT.
There's no way we might beat all 3 of those teams.
I don't think they will. It's why I don't think Vancouver will make it. I think Vancouver will fall about 4 points out.
Yeah. Which all things considering is not bad.
And everyone's going to go back, oh, it's because Demko was injured. Nah, it's just the team's just not there. I think this Vancouver team really needs to look itself in the mirror and figure out what their identity is because they just don't have one.
It was all the drama in the season with Miller and Pettersson. This is going to be a big offseason with Vancouver because Pettersson's not getting it done. So are you going to move on from Pettersson and just rebuild and restart? Or are you going to try to give Pettersson more pieces to work with now they got rid of Miller? I don't know. It's going to be an interesting offseason for Vancouver for sure.
It is definitely going to be interesting. But before we go to a break, we need to jump on the Streakers app and take a look at some games tonight. And we got some big ones here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So make sure you jump on the Streakers app. Download the Streakers app on your mobile devices. It says it right on your screen. So if you don't listen to your screen, I don't know what to tell you. Like, come on, you're glued to your phone. You're probably just taking a poop. Take the time and download the app. But let's look at some of these games. You got the Islanders versus the Lightning. Do or die game for the Islanders. Dan, who do you have?
Lightning.
Chazzy, who do you have?
Yeah, the Lightning will strike the Island.
I am going to say the Island must pick the Islanders. This is a do or die game for the Islanders. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to quit just yet. I think they're going to squeak out a tight win against the Lightning.
Nice.
They got a revenge here from Saturday's 5-3. So,
and that game, remember, if they played the way they did in that whole third period, completely different game.
Yeah,
let's take a look at the Habs versus the Panthers. Chazzy, are you sticking with your Habs?
Sticking with them, yep. We'll take them again.
I'm going to take the Panthers. I think the Panthers will win this one. I think Montreal's going to be a little too focused on getting revenge, not enough focused on playing hockey.
Ooh. Dan,
what are your thoughts here?
You just called them out, saying if you do not come out and answer the bell.
Yeah. I'm saying answer the bell, get it out of the way, and then get to the game. I think instead it's going to be the forefront for that whole game.
So you're thinking they're just going to be answering the bell all game. Okay.
Yes. And that's why I say get it over with in the minute. Spike that out of there and then move on. So, Dan, who are you taking, Habs or Panthers?
I'm taking the Habs for the opposite reason, Jacob. I think this is good for the Habs, and I think it's going to fire them up. And I think the Habs are going to prove to everyone watching, not just Florida, but Toronto, Tampa, Ottawa, whoever, they're proving they're going to be in the playoffs for the East.
It'll be interesting because if Florida has these 4 points because they play the Leafs the next day, like they're back into first.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, that's the thing. Whoever wins those back-to-backs will probably get the division.
But let's move on to the Wings versus the Blues. And this is a big game for both of these teams. As much as we didn't talk about them, the Red Wings, the team has to feel like they still have a shot. They're in that window. They're a bubble team that I think is going to miss, but they're still there. The St. Louis Blues are looking to win 10 in a row. And they're, like I said, I think they feel they can really jump the Wild. However, I think the Blues are going to lose this one. I don't think they're going to get to 10 straight. I think the Red Wings are going to keep the East more interesting. Maybe they'll play both of their mediocre goalies at the same time, and they'll find a way to get it done. Red Wings win a thriller 5-4. Chazzy?
No, I'm gonna stick with the Blues. They just had a tough match against the Avs. They're gonna ride the momentum and put the Red Wings closer to the golf green.
Dan, what are your thoughts? Are you going Motown or are you singing the blues?
Well, I'm going to show my age here for a second. I keep forgetting that the Red Wings are in the East. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Red Wings in the East. But anyway.
We're not in the North Division anymore.
Yeah, I know, eh? I am going with my hat and my beautiful eyes in 4K and going with the St. Louis Blues.
Man, I am not doing well here in these battles against you boys right now, but maybe that's just why I have the better winning percentage. Now let's talk Oilers versus Golden Knights. This could be a real Western Conference Finals preview right here, right now. And I am going to take the Oilers. I think the Oilers get a big bounce back. I think they take the momentum from the win against Calgary. Calvin Pickard played an awesome game in that one. I think he's going to continue to ride that wave. He seems hot. And I think the Oilers are going to get it done in a very low-scoring, tight-checked game. I think I'd be shocked to see over 50 shots on net between the two teams, and the Oilers get it done. Chazzy?
Yeah, then they got the Jets. This is gonna be tough. I'm gonna stick with the Oilers to try and stay pace with the Kings for that home ice advantage. As we talked about, the Kings were white hot going into Saturday's 3 losses, now 4, but home record.
Dan, what are your thoughts here? Knights or Oilers?
I'm going to agree if you guys go with the Oilers, but I'm going to say something different. I think it's going to be a huge offensive game, and I think the Oilers are going to win like 7-5. I think you get all those players like Skinner and Arbison and Henwick that have not really played up to their potential and offensive number-wise. They got to be firing all V8 cylinders to be in the playoffs, secondary scoring, and I think we're going to blow up in this game.
They very well could, and I mean, Edmonton needs it, right? Especially with Connor McDavid, who's been out of the lineup. Not sure if he'll be back for that game. I haven't heard anything, so I don't think he will. But let's move on to the last game I want to talk about here, which is the Flames versus Utah. And I'm going to take the Flames again. I think they're going to take the momentum off that big win. I think Utah's done. I don't think they have a chance to make the playoffs, and I think they're going to start to really falter here. Flames will get it done. This is a must-win game for Calgary, and they're going to get it. Dan, Calgary or Utah?
I'm picking Calgary. I think this is going to be for low-scoring game. I think Calgary's going to win this game 2-1.
Chazzy, Calgary or Utah?
I'm going to play spoiler from the ski slopes, Utah.
Well, speaking of skis, we need to slide on out to a commercial break. When we come back, Chazzy's going to have a big glass of milk as we get ready to talk about the Leafs talk, and the Toronto Blue Jays are already dealing with injuries. We'll be right back.
Come on in! Oh, there's an opportunity knocking right there. All right, Streakers.
More for your money!
Big news! We have more for your money joining the Streakers Nation and the team. It takes a village to do something that we want to pull off. We're so excited. So download the latest Streakers app. Watch for the updates. Watch for more happening. Coming for more for your money. Let's go streaking. Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. I'm going to mention one thing I think is hilarious. So Dan always went on he didn't like Run DMC when I was a big fan of Run DMC. And now he's got off a fedora because I'm the king of rock, the end of higher. Sucker MCs could call me sire. Like, come on.
Hey, now I grew up, I like them.
There's no need to hide. Tinted windows don't mean nothing. They know who's inside.
Yeah.
That's why William Nylander takes the subway to work, because he knows no matter what, everyone's going to ask him to take his shirt off and do an interview.
He is gorgeous.
Let's get into some Leafs talk here before Dan messaged William Nylander on Instagram.
Which lines are we mixing up today, boys?
Well, that is the question that seems to happen in Leafland all the time. But how big is this game on Wednesday night?
Most important game of the year so far.
Well, you're getting the Panthers on an emotional back-to-back here.
Yeah,
it's going to be a big game, yeah.
That's why I argue it's such a big game. The Leafs have to win this one.
Yeah,
but for the Leafs, this is big for them because a lot of people are talking measuring stick game, and I agree with you, Chazzy. Coming off a back-to-back, I don't know if it's as much as a measuring stick, but it's a game that the Leafs have to show they're not the Sheldon Keefe Leafs. They're not the Mike Babcock Leafs. They're not the Ron Wilson Leafs. They're not the Pat Quinn Leafs, that they will win this game.
Don't disrespect Pat Quinn, bro.
I can do what I want. Rest in peace to Pat Quinn. But still, I mean, they're the Leafs that never got it done when it counted. This is a game that counts. They have to get it done. Well, they got close. They got conference finals twice. Funny enough, one of their runs was without Matt Sundin. That's a whole nother topic. But Chazzy, if you're a Leaf fan here, do you feel this is a must-win for Toronto if they want to win the division?
No, is it a must-win? It is definitely a winnable game if you're getting the Panthers on a back-to-back. But I don't know if it's a must-win. It's a regular game, I think. No,
I'm surprised. I think it's a must-win. You got the Panthers on a back-to-back, and you play them again a week later. You got to win this one. You haven't beat the Panthers yet this year. You have to beat them this game. No ifs or buts about it. This is a must-win game. Toronto has been going on all year. Our goal is to win division. I am former Leafs captain John Tavares. I go to bed. They have to win this game.
Who are you starting?
Well, Stolarz.
No,
It's not even a question to me. Stolarz. I don't know why there's so much controversy between these two goalies. One is clear. I'm not going to say trade Joseph Woll and bring up Matt Murray and
who deserves a circus book now? I called it here at Speakers Island podcast. I said Woll will fall apart before the playoffs.
He has not fallen apart. He had a really good game the other night.
He did. That's true.
So calm down. But I would definitely start Stolarz in this one because, two, you have an opportunity if Stolarz plays poorly to give Woll the next one against the Panthers. Right. And Woll just had played the last game. So right now, if you do it, it doesn't look like you're necessarily giving one goalie the reins yet. It looks like you're just going 1-1-1-1-1 chop suey. So I would start Stolarz. Mm-hmm. But my question is Chazzy, as you'd love to bring up, and Leafs Nation loves to speculate, are there changes coming in the lineup again? I hope not. I don't even care. Honestly, I don't want Pacioretty back until the playoffs. Just rest him. He's old. He's old and he plays physical. Let him rest. Let him drink his prune juice at home, sit on his lazy boy couch.
Not that old.
Get a protein bar so he stays in shape. Let him be ready to go. I don't make a change in this lineup. Now, I'm sure Dan's going to say to bring Ryan Reeves and put him on the top line and scratch Mitch Marner.
No.
Oh, come on. You haven't had a crazy take yet this episode. But fine, Dan. Are you changing the lines?
I'm not changing the lines. I think the lineups look really good, especially with Nick Robertson out. And I would get Pacioretty in before the playoffs just to make sure he's loose. And I wouldn't play Reeves quite yet. And I think you guys are...
Wait. Yet? So you would play Ryan Reeves again in this lineup?
I think in the playoffs, when the salary cap doesn't count, there's a possibility. But
why? He can't skate.
Well, let's say you're down 3-1 in the series against Florida. You need someone to beat up someone. Then
you need someone who can skate. They have to be able to move.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to say, though, is I think you guys are underestimating this whole back-to-back thing. I think Florida is going to dominate, still play very well, even though it's back-to-back. I mean, they just won the Stanley Cup. They're a good team. They're going to be used to back-to-back games. So I think the fact that it's back-to-back is not really a big decision maker in this game. I think Florida's still going to come out very strong.
Ryan Reeves comment.
Good. What, you think he played his last game in NHL history?
Not necessarily, but probably the last game this year.
Last game as a Leaf?
Honestly, I think Ryan Reeves retires after this season, but that's a whole other conversation. Now, there is a guy that I would bring back in the lineup at some point, and it's not against Florida on Wednesday night. It's maybe towards the end of the schedule if your fate's sealed up either way, and I think you got to get Philip Myers back in the lineup just a little bit in case you get an injury on defense.
Yeah, once you get the division locked up for sure.
As Philip Myers, I think, Dan, you seem to hate on minimum contract players, thinking they should be the next Alexander Ovechkin or the next.
No, I like Philip Myers.
But Philip Myers is a solid seventh defenseman.
I like him.
To see him get 2 games before the year is up.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I would wait until the division is locked up because Benoit
either locked up or out of reach, whatever it is, except the fate. Like, let's say you got 2 games left and you're down 4 points and you know Florida's probably not going to lose the last 2 games of the year. You know the division's out of reach. So accept it and get some other guys in the lineup. I'd also potentially wouldn't mind seeing Nick Robertson getting one more game if it's once it's locked up either way.
For sure.
Same thing with Steves in the AHL. I think he could be a guy that you might see come up.
Now, can you call them because they are max at the cap like every dollar right now?
Oh, you'll just say a guy stubbed his toe.
Oh, okay.
Like, let's be honest. It's the way the NHL. They go on, the NHL doesn't have a floating cap. Oh, yes, it does. Ow, I am injured. I burnt my pinky finger on the stove.
When's Kachuk back for the Panthers? Is it close to the playoff time?
Say that again?
Kachuk, when's he back for the Panthers?
Oh, he'll be back game one, guarantee it.
Oh, wait, so in playoffs. So
I think this is just Mark Stone all over again. I think he'll be back game one. Aaron Ekblad, remember, though, can't come back till game 3.
Because he's suspended. Now, does that help Toronto if they face Toronto?
Well, it helps whoever faces Florida. Yeah, he's one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league. But now let's get into that actual game. We've talked about, we think the lines are going to stay the same.
I hope
Anthony Stolarz will probably get the start. But now who is going to win? Dan, I'm going to start with you.
Leafs.
Chazzy, Leafs or Panthers?
Rawr.
So you don't think your Habs can beat them up enough to make it an easy win for the Leafs? I just think you took a shot at your own team there. No.
Oh, I know. As I said, it's gonna be 2 big games. We're gonna see a lot on how they play against Montreal and how Montreal responds here. So I think you're gonna get 2. You might get, if they beat. I don't. You know what? I'm gonna stop right there.
I don't know what's down.
2 meaningful games for the Panthers coming up. I can't. All I'll say is, I don't know. Kachuk's not in there. You're getting them on the back to back. So this game against the Leafs, I don't know. I don't find it a meaningful measuring stick.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna say the Leafs in overtime, which is not what the Leafs want to do. I think Florida will find a way to get a point. I think they're going to be energized even though they're tired. I agree with Dan. I don't think the back-to-back is going to be as impactful as Chazzy you're saying. I think it's going to do something because back-to-back is back-to-back. It's tough to do. But I also think Florida is going to be amped to play, and Toronto might be a little sleepy because they haven't played in a while. Remember, the Leafs played Saturday and their next game's Wednesday, right? So that's a lot of time off. But now let's get into some of the props that I've set up for you guys.
Quick question, so I don't mind. What goalie played for Florida in the Montreal game?
You'll start your backup against Florida and put Bobrovsky in against Toronto because it's the more meaningful 2 points.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
Have they even called it yet?
No, of course. What? Why would they? I don't know why people always expect teams to give the other team a bunch of information as early as possible. No, you're not going to let them know. Why would you?
Yeah, Vanek right now. They got Vanek at the moment penciled in.
The other thing just inspired Chazzy's wild moment. I don't know what sound a maple leaf does. It might be the maple leaf waving in the wind.
Guys, I think during the break, I think Dan decided to open up the liquor cabinet. But let's get into some of these props.
Non-alcoholic.
Will Austin Matthews score a power play goal?
No.
Chazzy?
No.
I said yes.
Has he been scoring in the last few games?
Yes. Matthews been playing his best hockey he's played all year the last month.
Okay.
And that's one thing I want to quickly say. Austin Matthews, if he wasn't injured, is on pace for 40 goals and 97 points.
Wow.
Get off the Austin Matthews hate train.
That's a great question because
this is a bad year for him, and he's still averaging just under 100 points.
Because they said Draisaitl may be the only 50 goal scorer.
I think Willie's got a shot. He's got 42 right now. He's got a shot.
Yeah.
Ovechkin would have hit it if he didn't break his leg. But
true.
Let's get into now. Will Marner get 2 assists?
No.
I said no as well. Dan, what did you say?
I said no because Marner's been kind of cold lately. He's been kind of averaging a point a game versus like 3 points. And Marner also stalls high 90s. He never gets 100 points. So I say no.
The only thing I will say, I think Marner is fueled to hit 100 points. It's a contract year. if Florida gets into some penalty trouble, let's say Toronto gets 4 or 5 power plays, Marner will hit 2 or 3 assists. If it stays 5-on-5, he won't. But now let's move on to, I think, a player we can all agree we can't stand is Brad Marchand. Chazzy, you as a Habs fan, you can't like Brad Marchand.
Oh, that's what I'm like tomorrow night or tonight in Montreal. Yeah.
So
he just adds another element to that game.
Will Brad Marchand get 1 point and 5 hits?
Yes.
Okay. Chazzy says yes. Dan, what do you say?
100%.
I say no.
What?
I think Brad Marchand will hit the hits, will not hit the points. I think he'll be too focused on chasing Mitch Marner and Max Domi, and he'll forget that he's there to play hockey. He might go lick someone again.
Or do he strangle them? Yeah.
I don't know, Chazzy, if you do remember that when he licked Leo Komarov during a playoff game.
Yes,
I love Komarov, man. He was one of my favorites.
He was a great dude.
I loved him.
Great dude.
Former Islander as well. The Islanders fine bottom 6 forwards for long terms. Look at Pierre Enval on that 7-year deal. But
I did have to laugh though. I think Marchand, one of his kids said something about when he's playing in Florida to pick up a couple of the rats if the fans throw them. And I don't think Marchand knew what he was talking about until it actually happened. He's like, I can, and he took a couple of rats off the ice.
But okay, so we have it where I think Matthews will get a power play goal. You two say no. We all agree that Marner will not get 2 assists. Chazzy and Dan both think Marchand will get a point and 5 hits. I say he won't.
Sounds right.
The hits, not the points.
So play us on Streakers.
Perfect free gamer there.
Make sure you jump into Streakers app, join into the Streakers Island podcast sports booth under podcasts and broadcasters, and join the fun. It's not a circus with us. It's a racket. Now let's move on to the Toronto Blue Jays. They prefer bat over racket, balls over birdies, and injuries over healthy.
Did you say we're talking about the Blue Jays? Here we go.
Blue Jays. So Max Scherzer. He lasted about 2.5, 3 innings, and he's out 15 days.
15.
Expected to be back potentially late April. Left Saturday's 9-5 loss to the Orioles after just 3 innings. Was diagnosed with lat soreness and an inflamed thumb.
How did he have a sore lap when in baseball they stand?
No. And he will visit
some dances.
I'm going to visit a hand specialist. So I don't think he's just getting a mani-pedi. I think he's actually going to see a doctor. When I hear hand specialist, I'm thinking he's going to the spa. Dan, you need to go to the spa. Chazzy, do you go to the spa?
No, I have not gone to the. Oh, I haven't went to the spa. Yes.
Okay,
it's not my place to go. No,
I'm going to say this, and I've never been to one either. We should do a Streakers Island podcast spa day
from the spa.
Yes, but
how when you get your feet done or something like that?
Make sure the feet don't go online. But how do we feel after 5 games for the Blue Jays?
The foot modeling contracts, boys.
I don't know how to feel about the Jays right now, and I want to take you down the circus that's been the Toronto Blue Jays at the moment. Home opener, sellout crowd, beautiful atmosphere.
Poor guy got kicked out wearing a hat.
Doug Ford calls him. It's all good. The Blue Jays get spanked 12-2.
You guys voicemail.
Now we have the Friday. The Blue Jays remembered that the bat can be used to hit the ball and not just hit themselves in the head. They win 8-2. Then we move to Saturday. Max Scherzer decides to get injured again. They lose 9-5. Now we go to Sunday, a defensive match. The starter pitcher lasts 6 innings. They win 3-1. Then we go to Monday night. The Blue Jays pitcher again gets them to the 7th inning before the bullpen needs to get in. They get a couple key hits towards the end of the game. They win 5-2 against the Nationals, who are not a great team, but that's not the point. They play the Nationals again today at 7:07 because we know baseball. Game can't start at 7. Can't even start at 7:10. Not 7:07. Throw that first pitch.
James Bond style.
Every hot dog in the stadium is free at the Sky Dome. But nevertheless, I don't know how to feel about the Jays. I really don't, because even in that 5-2 victory, they were in the 8th inning, bases loaded, no outs, and they get nothing.
Yeah, I know.
They only got 1 run out of that whole inning. Out of 10 hits, they still only brought in 5 runs. Like this was an issue they had last year of leaving runners stranded on base. We get this way too often. And especially bases loaded, no outs, and you get nothing, not even a sac fly. So what happened from it was, Jays go out there, get a double playoff, bad base running, and then a pop-up. You just can't have that. And when you face better teams like the Mets down the road next week, and then you got the Red Sox when you're on the road, that can't happen. So I don't know how to feel about the Jays right now. Dan, how do you feel about the Jays? I feel you're more of an optimistic person than I am.
I think all things considering, you look at the beginning, you're so upset with Vladdy Guerrero. With the contract. You did okay in spring training. The home opener blew up like crazy. So consider all that drama in the beginning. Now step into game 2. And from game 2, you're over 500. I think I'm pretty happy with that. With the Jays being in such a hard division, if they can go over 500 outside of the division, like they did last night versus Washington, if they can keep beating teams outside of the division over 500 and then stay around 500 within that division, that would hopefully give them around that 90 game mark. I predict they're going to win 95, 98 games. I think we're right on par. And I'm disappointed with the core J players so far that we've had forever, like Guerrero and Brissett. I don't think they've done too much. But the new guys they brought in have been great. That Gomez, Soma, whoever, he's got 3 home runs in 5 games. Apologize if I butchered your name, but you're incredible so far. And that other new guy we brought in and got the other home run, he's been good. And it's like, hey, their pitching has been good so far besides the injury. So let's see what they can do.
Pitching's been good so far. They've had multiple, they've allowed a game with 12 runs allowed and 9 runs allowed. The pitching's been inconsistent again.
Well, it's good on Monday.
Chazzy, do you get where I'm coming from, or are you more on Dan's side of the glass is never mind half full, the glass is chuck full, even though half the glass is gone?
The glass is overflowing.
No, I'm definitely with you on that. And without our power over the last few days, when you guys told me Scherzer was out within 18 pitches, that just doesn't happen. We said this before. It's going to come down to pitching. It's going to come down to injuries. We got to stay healthy. It is a positive sign if our starters are taking us into the 6th, 7th inning. That's a positive note, but it's still way too early to see to make any sort of remarks on a report card for them so far.
And
I agree with that. It's too early.
Just had a really nice first start for the Jays in the game on Monday night, pitching 6 innings, only allowing 2 runs. 4 strikeouts, and the bullpen did a nice job between Little, Sandani, and Garcia. Garcia did a really nice job closing that out with 2 strikeouts in the 1 inning.
Oh, that was awesome.
If the Jays starting pitchers can pitch 6, they're in good shape. Last year, we had too many games where they only pitched 5. I think the Jays starting rotations got to get you to 6 innings. Yeah. We look at the game versus the Orioles. Bassett got you to 6 innings. Right? He allowed 8 hits, but he had 7 strikeouts. And he didn't allow any runs until then. The bullpen came in, did the job. Jeff Hoffman did a great job closing. So when we look at the Jays, when their starters can last, they're doing okay. But now let's look at the home opener. Barreros only lasted 5 innings. Then you needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other pitchers to get you through a 12-2 blowout.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Right? And that's not a recipe for success. And we look at the 9-5 loss where we had Scherzer only pitched 3 innings. Then we needed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pitchers to get through a 9-5 loss. You look at the Jays, for them to win, their bullpen is just okay. So you got to get to 6, 7 innings from your starter.
So in theory, you need a starter pitcher to fall between 80 and 90 pitches.
I'm not worried about the pitch count. I've seen guys go 7 innings, only throw mid-70s in pitch.
If we're smart, yeah, true.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, good point.
But
I like that.
I don't know. I obviously I want to see more. I mean, this is a series against the Nationals. If you can sweep the Nationals and then I don't know, at least win 1 of the 3 against the Mets and then go 500 against the Red Sox, maybe I feel a little different.
Well, I agree with Chazzy. It's really too early to tell. It's just pure Toronto drama here,
No, I get it's too early to tell, but if you guys remember going into the season, I said the Blue Jays had to have a good start.
Yes.
And right now, for me, the start is meh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right, we compare them to as Dan likes to call them, the New York Yankee fries.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Yankees have scored 36 runs in their first 3 games. However, I don't know much about this, but Dan and Chazzy have informed me there could be a little Tom Brady deflating the ball situation.
Well, no, you know what? This is different. We don't know where this came from, but this torpedo bat has arrived, and now they're talking about it.
What's a torpedo bat?
Huh?
What's a torpedo bat?
From what I understand, it's pretty much taking the barrel of the bat, that hardwood, and putting it where the label is. Okay. So you have a sweeter spot.
Ugh.
So even if you have a slow reaction, mind you, these guys are taking 100 mile an hour pitches. If they have a slow hand reaction, you can saw it off and still take a yard.
Okay, but I'm seeing Dan wrote in the script that they're cheaters. Is that cheating?
No,
or is that
no, it is not. Because the league has not said anything, and it's now a thing. I don't understand. We talk about cork bats for years. Now you're changing the size of the barrel of a bat, and you're putting more like solid wood into that sweet spot, like a golf club. And now, what you said, 36 home runs, 36
36 runs in their first 3 games.
Wasn't the first game 8 home runs or something like that? Some crazy.
Oh my God. We got 20 hits. And
they've been insane.
No, it's not cheating because the league hasn't said anything until
that's my thing. Is it cheating if no one's told you it's cheating?
No.
Because I'm seeing
there's no rules on it.
You got to look too. They've had some games that have also been pretty quiet, right? Like they won 4-2 their first game against the Braves, then they won 20-9. Then they won 12-3 versus the Braves. So they did have that one game in there that was relatively quiet. In spring training, it's not like they were hitting an insane amount of numbers.
Actually, you know what? I have a fake Chazzy here on the island because Chazzy changed my mind. Yeah, Chazzy literally changed my mind. I see his point now that it's not cheating. I guess his comparisons in hockey when players switch over from carbon fiber sticks to wooden sticks. Remember back in the day, there were some players like Jerome McGinley and Ryan Smith that still kept a wooden stick, even though the young kids are playing carbon fiber. I guess it's kind of a point now where you'll have baseball hasn't made a rule yet, so you'll see some hitters still keep the old bat, but if new hitters want to try it, they'll try it, right?
But why wasn't this talked about during the spring training? Why didn't they use it during spring training?
I have no clue. All I know is our good old fan Shades in Ottawa sent me this video about it. I thought it was quite interesting, so I thought I would bring it to you guys' attention.
No, it is interesting. I just don't know if it's wrong. Yeah, I until the MLB, and I did a quick Google search, and I haven't seen anything. I mean, please, if there's a viewer out there who knows something that I don't, please reach out. And join the conversation, as we like to say, and let us know. Maybe we're wrong, and maybe the MLB has put out rules. I know there's been rules about the bat weight,
right?
But if you're just moving the weight to a different spot,
which is pretty much what they did. I think it was an MIT
illegal, right? It's kind of like when a hockey player has a different flex on their stick,
right? Okay.
I don't know. I think maybe the Yankees are just being smart, but at the same time, do you have a higher chance of hitting a flyout ball?
Yeah, well, that's the whole point is like you could have a slow reaction and still take it yard. You just
but what I'm saying is we're going to see more
100 miles an hour.
Are we going to see more pop flies of this? We don't know. I don't know.
We're going to see more home runs.
We'll see more home runs, but we see more ones that aren't quite there yet because they swung a little too late. Still, it's just going to go a bit deeper. I don't know. It's something I think we definitely want to keep our eyes on.
Cool.
And the island, we have blue eyes across the whole island.
We'll keep our binoculars on it.
But we
He's
need
in
to
the lighthouse tonight.
That's right.
We need to go to a quick break. But when we come back, Chazzy didn't get his milk. I'm not sure where he went. He did run off camera, but I didn't see him take a single
Running
sip.
on caffeine.
And he didn't change his outfit.
So we're gonna go to a break. Don't worry, we are gonna talk about the Raptors winning streak and what does that mean. But we're also gonna get into some very early CFL power rankings, which I think are just absolutely bizarre. We'll be right back. The Streakers Island podcast is here, baby. We're talking NHL, CFL, NFL, and of course, those grassroots sports and so much more. Make sure you tune in every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Welcome to the island. Welcome back, everybody, to the Streakers Island podcast. I think Dan's trying to do a workout, but it's not working. And I got to say, too, I noticed Dan has some sort of tie on his door handle. Now, to other people, that might mean something different. But here in our house, that just means we're recording the Streakers Island podcast. Let's get into some very odd CFL power rankings. Which I think I've just broke Dan and Chazzy, which that just makes me very happy on this Tuesday morning at 1:05 in the morning. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. Let's just get that in there, too. But Jock Wilson, host of Stamps Radio from Sports on 770, has his two early CFL power rankings.
Oh, he's out of Calgary?
He's out of Calgary. So, before you guys comment, I'm just going to read them, okay?
Okay.
The best team in the CFL is the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
What?
Okay, not bad. Okay.
No.
We can see it.
No, I can't.
Blue Bombers. The third best is the Edmonton Elks, who might be
they don't have a name yet.
Again.
Oh.
Fourth is the defending Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts.
What? No.
Fifth is the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
I agree.
Sixth is the best record in the CFL last year, Montreal Alouettes.
Oh.
Seventh is the surging Ottawa Red Blacks.
Oh, that's weird.
Eighth is apparently the Calgary Stampeders after adding Vernon Adams Jr.
What?
And ninth is the BC Lions.
I agree with that.
I think every pick in this is wrong.
You know what I think?
No, Dan, I don't care what you think yet, okay? No one cares about your feelings, bud. Just go look at your tire and your door handle. And let's Winnipeg to me is a mid-pack team. Hamilton, I would put around 4. Toronto for me is 2.
Who's your 1?
Honestly, Calgary. I think Calgary made the most improvements, and I think they're going to come out flying. That offense is going to go. So I go Calgary 1, Toronto 2, Red Blacks 3.
Yeah.
Elks 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Rough Riders 5. Bombers 6th. No, Montreal 6th. Bombers 7th. Lions 8th. And who do I have left?
You're missing one.
I know I am.
God, we know. BC? BC.
He's just said Lions.
Oh.
No, but it's definitely not Hamilton 9th. No, because I wouldn't put Hamilton 9th.
No,
You can tell I did not write my script down here, but that's okay. Okay, let's Hamilton's mid-pack as well. So we're gonna go.
4th is a tie.
I have a very hard time picking a 9th team because I don't think there's a team here that I think is gonna flat out suck, right? I think there's gonna be the year of everyone's. I don't see any team pulling away this year in the standings. But Ticats definitely not one. Ticats.
Did you name Ottawa on your list?
Yeah.
Ottawa I had towards the top. You know what? I'm gonna go crazy here, and I think to start the first couple weeks of the year, Montreal will be the worst team in the CFL. Davis Alexander is gonna crack under the pressure.
See, I think BC is going to be the worst.
I know, but you just also just don't like Nathan Rourke.
No, I don't. I still think BC will be the worst.
Stop eating your name tea. Back away.
Well, I'm back. Well, come on.
Who's your top four here? Who's your top four? How would you rank your top four? Where do you have your Argos? Where do you have your Argos?
I think Calgary's up there. I agree with Jacob. Calgary's number 1. I'll take Argos number 2. I'll take Ottawa number 3. And I would take Ticats 4.
So you're not taking you're only taking one team from the West in the top 4.
Yeah. Wow. I think Winnipeg is aging out. I think BC sucks because of salary cap issues. Edmonton, between the drama of the GM and Vername and all that and new ownership, is a wild card to me. And Saskatchewan, yeah.
See, I disagree with you. I think Saskatchewan will be better. Edmonton is hit or miss.
You forgot Saskatchewan, dude.
You forgot Saskatchewan in your list.
That's who I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay. It's only Rough Riders.
You can't forget Rider Nation. They're everywhere. They're gonna spam in the comments like, what the hell? Go away. But yeah, I really feel this is the year that we're gonna have the really tight standings. I don't think there's necessarily a team that I think will pull away like we've seen the Bombers the last couple years and Montreal last year and Toronto the year before. I think this is the year that no one dominates. I think even the teams that are lower in the standings are going to be competitive. Even BC, because remember, if Nathan Rourke continues to struggle, you got Jeremiah Masoli as your backup. You look at Montreal, if Davis Alexander struggles, you have McLeod Buffalo-Thompson as your backup. You look at Edmonton, if Trey Ford struggles, which I really don't think he will, but if he does, you have Cody Fajardo as your backup. Look at Toronto, if Chad Kelly doesn't completely heal from his injury, you have Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes as your backups, 2 guys that have won big games, including Arbuckle winning in the Grey Cup. You have a lot of teams with very good contingency protocol. I'd even argue Winnipeg, if Collaros gets hurt or struggles in the beginning, you have Shea Patterson, who played pretty well in a small sample size for the Riders.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think this is the year of them being close in the standings. I really can't put the top 4 the way it is in this list. And this is no disrespect to Jock Wilson. I'm sure you're a lovely lad. But we all agreed off camera that you deserve the circus book for this pick because Hamilton is not the best team in the CFL. No way. Hamilton will be good, but they won't be the best team in the CFL. No. They'll be good. They'll be very competitive, and I think they'll be fighting for the top of the East or at least home field in the first round. They are not the best team in the CFL because I've questions about their running game with Greg Bell. And I still have question marks around Bo Levi Mitchell if he can stay healthy and consistent the whole year. Because if he can't stay healthy and consistent, that team's in trouble because they just picked up a guy like Kenny Lawler who needs a big arm quarterback to get it done. And you have Scott Milanovich who doesn't like the deep ball with receivers who like to catch the deep ball. I just don't know. I think Hamilton's anywhere from a 6-4 team for me. Like, that would be a more interesting way. Instead of doing it power rankings, let's break it down tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And for me, my tier 1 teams would be Toronto, Calgary, and either a toss-up between Ottawa and Saskatchewan. I think Saskatchewan will be the second best team in the East this year.
You mean West?
I mean the West. Well, who knows? They could end up going crossover. Remember, there's crossovers in the CFL, and I'm not talking about when you break the ankles in the NBA. My tier 2 would be Montreal, Edmonton, Winnipeg. My tier 3, which I almost want to break tier 3 into 2 tiers. My high tier 3 would be BC. I think BC's got the higher ceiling. I think Edmonton has a lot of drama, and they'll be tier 3. And Hamilton will bounce between tier 2 and tier 3, depending on the quarterback and stay healthy.
Well, Montreal.
Wow.
Montreal's a tier 2. I think that's a better way to break it down this early instead of 1 to 9, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Do you guys think I deserve a clown book, or am I making some sense?
We'll see with your Tiger Cats.
So you think I'm a little crazy thinking the Tiger Cats
all the way down to 3?
Yeah.
If Levi Mitchell gets injured or struggles off the hop, yeah, they're that team and they don't have a running back anymore. I don't know. Montreal for me is the wild card team. I don't. You have an aging out quarterback and you have a young running back who's never been the guy for a full season. It's risky. They made a lot of moves, but that doesn't always work. Edmonton has been making a lot of moves the past 3 years, and they've been missing the playoffs every time. I thought Dan's just about to get up and leave.
No. I was going to say, this Zach Wilson guy. Why that's his name?
Jock Wilson.
Jock Wilson.
Zach Wilson's a mediocre quarterback in the NFL.
Do I think about him? I think he has a pet lizard named George.
Okay, I'm really bored. Let's move on.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's get back to the NHL and let's talk Sidney Crosby. I could talk about Sidney Crosby all day. And Sid the Kid breaks Wayne Gretzky's record for most point per game seasons in NHL history. Has done it all 20 years of his career.
Our 1v1 champ, Sid the Kid.
That's impressive. Like I don't think Crosby gets enough credit for this. Is everyone's been talking about Ovechkin's goal record, which is phenomenal. But to average a point a game for 20 straight years.
It's crazy.
Every year, Crosby will get you a point per game. Doesn't matter how good or how bad the team is. Every game, Crosby will get a point. Pretty much. That's just, I get he's not that he's had the point every game of his career, but he's averaging a point per game per year. That's just crazy to me. I was a record. I thought the goal record would be broken before that point per game season record.
Wow, yeah.
Because I feel that's harder.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't have any slumps.
No.
You can have a phenomenal goal season and still go 5 or 6 games without a goal.
Well, Veskin did that.
Game. You can't do a point per game every year without basically getting a point every game.
Yeah.
You did for 20 years. No matter how good or bad that team is.
And he's still going. I don't think he's going to retire.
I still say Crosby's a top 10 player in the NHL.
Yeah, I agree.
When I go two-way. So what Crosby has done is just incredible. I don't know if you guys agree with me about the points being harder to get than the goals. Maybe you'll disagree. But Dan, I know you're more of an Ovi fan than a Crosby fan. So what are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think it is a harder accomplishment because he did it in a span of 20 years. That means you have to be an A-level top 10 player in the league, not just your team, your league, for 20 years. I mean, who else has done that in not just hockey, but in any sport? Like, even like guys like Michael Jordan and LeBron James, even now he's starting to age out a little bit, right? Like, Sidney Crosby is, 38 years old, roughly, 37, and he's still one of the best players in the league. I don't think Crosby's going to retire anytime soon. He could do this for 21 seasons, for all we know. So, A+ to him. Congrats.
Yeah, I'm going to say this too. I don't think Crosby will have a year where he isn't that great. I think Crosby will play until he feels he can't be a top 20 player in the league anymore, and then he'll retire.
And my question to Jacob,
accepting mediocrity, right? I think he could do this another 2 years.
100%.
I think if Crosby didn't get injured and didn't have all the stress from Four Nations while playing injured, Crosby might have been a 100-point guy this year.
I agree.
Like, legitimately, when you look at Crosby's stats, he is still the type of player that is able to get things done.
And I had a question for Jacob off camera. In the span of his 20 years, plus the World Juniors, all the Team Canada, and CHL career, so probably, 25 years of playing hockey, how many liters of Gatorade has Crosby drank?
8
gallons.
Gallons, bro.
So just to put in perspective, Crosby's got 81 points in 73 games this year.
Crazy.
So let's do some quick math here. If he played all 82 games this year, and remember too, he's been playing injured.
Yeah.
So
with no one to play with either.
Yeah, he's averaged about 20 minutes a year.
Crosby would have been on pace for 91 points this year if he played every game.
That's crazy, bro.
Like at 37,
Yeah.
a 90-point player.
Yeah.
On a terrible team.
Like, I don't think we're going to see McKinnon or McDavid do anything like this.
It's just because Crosby, every year, he just seems to find a way to get better. And that is why I have been one of the biggest fans. Can I also state Crosby's 57% on the faceoffs this year?
Wow.
Looking at his stats, did you know there is only 4 seasons out of 20 he's been under 50% at the draw?
That's got to be a record, too.
And 2 of those years were his first 2 seasons in the NHL, where he was at 45.5 and 49.8.
Wow.
Then another year in 14-15, he was 49.9%. Then 16-17, he was 48.2.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Consistency here.
That's got to be a record.
It's impressive. There is no denying how good this guy is. And just
I don't think Gretzky was much of a face-off guy.
Just to blow your minds even more, it's only 4 years he's been a minus player in his career.
Yeah, I saw that.
How do you not say this is the greatest player of all time? Like, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't care that he's not going to break Gretzky's records for assists and goals or whatever. He's done it in an era that is so much harder to do it. In the Gretzky era, scoring 30 goals, you were a fourth liner. In the NHL, for 30 goals, you're going to get paid $9 million a year and be considered an elite goal scorer. Like, we might only see one player hit 50 goals this year. Where, remember, Teemu Selanne and Alexander McGillney both had over 70 in the same season during that.
76.
Crosby has done Mr. Consistency. It's been incredible. But this does bring the question, Ovechkin, is he going to pass Wayne Gretzky's goal scoring record this season, or will it be next season? He's 5 goals away.
5 goals to break it?
5 goals to pass it, 4 to tie it.
4 to tie it. And what do they got? 8 games left? I think they got 8 games. So
I believe so.
God, it's going to be close. It's going to be close.
I think it's 9 games.
Very close. They have 9 games left, Dan. You are correct. 9 games. He's got to get 5.
That's why on the calculator.
It's doable.
So, when we started talking about this in the early days of the Island, I said there was no way he was going to break this record. I didn't see him getting 42 goals this year. We only had 30 last year. But now with 9 games left in the home stretch, I'm changing my mind. I think Ovi is breaking the record this year. And I think in these 9 games, one of them he may get a hat trick.
He might need that to break the record this year.
I think that's how he's going to do it. I don't know.
He's almost on pace a goal every other game.
Yeah, literally.
Goal every other game.
Consistency.
Right, almost on that. Yeah.
Now, if you guys remember, I called it saying he would break the record this year.
You did, yes.
When we started the podcast. And if you look, you know what? The schedule might help them. They face the Bruins tonight. Then the Hurricanes. That's a tough game. Then they got the Blackhawks and the Islanders. Then the Hurricanes again. Then Blue Jackets back-to-back. Then the Islanders and the Penguins to close off the year. Can you imagine if he breaks the record against the Penguins?
Oh, my God.
That is a storybook ending.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
This wasn't on the script, but I'm just going to say it. If Ovechkin breaks the record this year and Washington wins the Cup, does he just retire?
No, I don't think he's done yet.
No, but I'm saying, though, what else is there to do? You break the Gretzky record. You win your second Stanley Cup. If they win the Cup, he probably wins the Conn Smythe.
Okay, let's just say it this way. You think no one else is going to break Crosby's record of 20 points, 20 seasons of
I think someone will never get 20 points in a season again.
Yeah, you know what I mean. You don't think anyone else is going to break Crosby's record getting 20 years of points per game player, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think with all the goal scorers we have now, with, McKinnon, Matthews, Draisaitl, whoever, do you think someone else can break Ovechkin's record of 895?
Yes.
I do too. So for that reason, I think Ovechkin's going to keep coming back next year, and I think he'll be the only player hit 900 goals. I think if it wasn't for the lockout and COVID and injuries, I think Ovechkin would have been the only player who had 1,000 goals. So I think he wants to hit 900 because he knows there's players behind him that can beat his record. So I think he's coming back next year to hit 900.
Okay, I'm going to say this. Do you think it's plausible he hits 1,000? He's got 2 more years on his deal.
At this point, he's 39, and we talked about Crosby drinking how many liters of Gatorade, how many liters of vodka has Ovechkin drinking in his career, right? I mean, I don't know. I love the guy, but I think 1,000 is going to be really tough for this time.
Yeah, but I'm just doing some math here real quick. So if Ovechkin didn't break his leg, he would have been on pace for 53 goals this year.
Right.
He plays 2 more years and can average 50 goals a year. It's not impossible.
But you think he's going to be 41 and have 50 goals?
It's not like Ovechkin exerts himself that much on the ice. He kind of just stands in one spot.
That's true.
Like the way, and that's why I think is a difference between the way Ovechkin plays versus the way Crosby plays, right? Crosby plays a 2-way game. Ovechkin does not.
I think a lot of it depends on the team in the Washington Capitals. I think one reason why Ovechkin has done so well this year versus last year is Washington's done a mini little rebuild and got players like a sentiment I don't like who's good now.
They got Strome.
Not Strome.
Walters turned out to be really good. Tom Wilson's been great for that team.
Not Doofus. What's his name?
They brought in Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Not the guy, Dubois, right? They brought in Dubois, that amazing dude from Belarus. He's a 30-goal guy now, right? So if Washington becomes a really good team the next 2 or 3 years, is it possible? Yes. Has Washington declined to become a team like last year? Then no way.
But before we go, we promised our viewers we would talk Toronto Raptors. So we need to talk Toronto Raptors. By everyone's surprise, including myself, the Toronto Raptors are the last team to not be mathematically eliminated from play-in contention.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
They've won 4 straight, which is a surprise. And they're finding ways to win games that maybe they shouldn't win. What do you guys take of the Raptors' recent winning streak? Like, they're chasing the Bulls, who have lost 2 straight, mind you, but they are 5 games behind them, which is tough. But so even if the Raptors don't make the play-in this year, what do you guys take for the Raptors overall with this winning streak? Like, do you guys think this means anything for the future? Like, what are your guys' thoughts?
I think at this point, the winning streak means nothing. I hate to say it.
I don't agree.
I mean, the only thing I will say, thanks to the bizarre trade that made no sense they did on trading deadline this year, I think the Raptors will be better next year. And I think the Raptors will make the playoffs next year. And this is a cute little example of next year. Besides, I don't think it means anything.
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. They basically would have to win out because they have 7 games left. So they basically got to win all 7 of them. Now, they do play the Bulls today at 8 o'clock. That's a big game for them in theory. But the Raptors, they will not make the playoffs this year. But I think this winning streak means a lot. I think it's a glimmer of hope. I think for the We the North Nation, this is a look ahead to like, hey, you know what? This team isn't so bad. When we're healthy, we're a decent team. When we're healthy, we're probably not even just a play-in team. We're probably a playoff team. I think they get a little bit better next year. I don't know who they bring in, but I don't think Masai Ujiri is done. I would love to see Kyle Lowry come back for a victory lap season with Toronto. I'm just going to say that right off the hop.
That'd be sweet, yeah.
And I think, you know what? You ride the momentum of retiring Vince Carter. You bring in Kyle Lowry and DeMar Rosen back for one more victory lap tour, and you make the playoffs.
That'd be sweet.
I really think that could happen. Chazzy, I can't tell if you're tired or you think I'm nuts.
Oh, no, that'll be a great Hall of Fame game.
Oh, out. Out.
That hurt.
You just got, oh.
Mark Rosen's not that old, is he?
Wow.
No, he's actually, but he puts up big numbers.
Yeah, like I think DeMar DeRozan's still like decent.
But you want to bring them all
DeRozan's
back.
still pretty decent.
Bring all the guys that we traded. Bring them all back.
DeMar DeRozan is still averaging 22 points a game.
Didn't DeMar leave Toronto not on sort of like?
Well, he was traded for Kawhi.
He didn't like that trade. Did he not?
He hated that trade.
Yeah.
He was devastated. But he was in a recent Raptors documentary. It seems like they buried the hatchet on that. Where he's still averaging 22 points a game, 3.9 rebounds, 4.3 assists, still shooting 48% from the field.
Oh, he's done well in the last few years.
He's
moved around a couple teams, but he still puts up over 20, does he not?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
And he's 35.
Okay.
So, I mean, Kyle Lowry, let's be honest, he has had a rough year, but he's also on a team that the 76ers have had a rough year. Kyle Lowry's only averaged 4 points a game this year.
Whatever happened to that franchise in the last couple of years?
Well, John, I mean, Kyle Lowry's 49, right?
You're on top of the division, and then all of a sudden you just fall.
Because they don't practice, bro.
And Kyle Lowry is 39. I think I really would love to see him come back to Toronto. I really would. I think that'll be another discussion one day because Dan feels Vince Carter's the greatest Raptor of all time. I say Kyle Lowry was the greatest Raptor of all time.
Maybe it's another 1v1 after a Hyman versus Knives one.
But we got to go, boys, because I want to go to bed. I think Dan looks pretty
wild.
So I think he's going to play I think he's going to be gaming some Gran Turismo.
No,
Chazzy, I think you want to enjoy. I don't know if you sleep with a fan on, but if you do, you have the electricity now to do it. But before we go, Dan, you have an island mindset.
I do. Mine's a little unique this week, episode, I should say. You know, we're talking about everything that's going on in the world. We're talking about supporting each other, supporting Canadians, and that includes supporting local businesses. And you know, it also includes supporting our Indigenous businesses. And there are some great businesses out there on the reserves ran by Indigenous people. And one of some of those great businesses are great gas stations. So go out for a drive and get a really good price of gas and support local Indigenous businesses and pick up a good meal and some artwork when you're there. You know, you got to support these people. They're awesome people.
Absolutely agree with you. Support local, support Indigenous businesses. Indigenous art is some of the coolest art you will ever see. But thank you very much for joining the Streakers Island podcast. Looking for more Streakers Island content? Make sure you follow us on all our social medias.
All of them.
For our live shows, because we've been going live more and more often. Even though Facebook's being stupid, that's okay. Instagram and YouTube's got us covered. And maybe we'll start that Twitch account. I think we might go live again this weekend. We'll have to wait and see. But thank you very much for joining the Streakers Island podcast. Make sure you download the Streakers Island app. And just as another quick thing, watch out for my JMO music page as I've been working on some new stuff and some new music's coming out very, very soon. We'll feature that soon on the podcast. But until then, we'll see you Thursday.
Bye-bye.